She crossed every line, then he silenced her forever in one heart-stopping moment. Asterisk, she was designed to exterminate humanity, but ended up falling for one. The Shirathi made her to be perfect. Commander Kailari was tall, powerful, with smooth, silver skin that could deflect energy blasts and armor that reacted to threats before she even moved. Her mind had been engineered for war. No emotion, no hesitation. She was the sharpest blade in the Shirathi fleet. And yet, as the door to the Terran's prison cell hissed open, something strange happened. The human inside looked up slowly. His hands were cuffed. His face was bruised. His shirt was gone, showing a lean but muscular frame. He blinked once, then smirked. "Well, if I knew angels looked like you," he said, "I wouldn't have fought so hard." Kailari stared. Her neural systems flagged the word angel as meaningless. He was supposed to beg, or at least look afraid. Instead, he winked. Elias Drake, Terran, Recon pilot, age 31. Status: prisoner of war. Kill order: active. She stepped forward, silently. Her boots clicked on the cold floor. "You are not funny," she said, her voice metallic and calm. "Not yet. But give me time. I've only just met you." He tilted his head and grinned. "What's your name, Silver?" She didn't answer. Instead, she raised her arm. Her internal systems locked in a kill command, but her finger hesitated. He saw it. "You don't want to do that?" "I was built to do that." "Maybe." He leaned back against the wall. "But something in you paused. I saw it." Her systems were glitching. That was the only explanation. She stepped back and closed the cell. As the door hissed shut, Elias called out, "See you tomorrow, sweetheart." She walked away faster than she meant to. Later in her quarters, she stared at her reflection. Her silver skin shimmered under the lights. Her eyes were dark, cold, perfect. Then why did her heart rate spike when he smiled? The next day she returned. "Still alive," he said, hands behind his head. "Guess I'm growing on you. You are a prisoner, not a pet. You keep coming back." That was true. Kailari began interrogating him. At least that's what she told herself. Questions about Terran tactics, culture, history, but he gave her something else instead. "Ever seen a sunset?" he asked one day. "We do not waste time on natural light." He chuckled. "Sunsets aren't a waste. They're proof that endings can be beautiful." She didn't respond, but the sentence stayed with her all night. The third day, she sat instead of standing. A glitch? No. A choice. Elias noticed. "Getting comfortable?" "I do not require comfort. Just coincidence. You're sitting across from me now, at eye level." He had a point. Days passed. Their talks grew longer. He asked more questions. She asked fewer. He joked. She pretended not to understand, but she did. Slowly, something was happening. Not in her systems. Not in her mind. In her gut. One evening, while checking his vitals, her hand brushed his shoulder. His skin was warm. Human warmth. It's not like the cold, efficient bodies of her kind. She froze. Elias turned his head slowly. "You okay?" Her hand remained on him longer than necessary. "I do not know," she whispered. Elias looked up at her, serious now. "Don't have to be what they made you. I was made to destroy you." "Maybe you were made to find me," the words hit her like a charge to the chest. Kailari stood quickly. She didn't return for 2 days. When she did, Elias looked up but didn't smile. "I thought they reassigned you." "I reassigned myself." He stood. "You all right, no?" Her voice was quieter. "Everything feels different." "Wrong. Maybe. Not wrong, maybe new." He reached out slowly, gently. His fingers brushed hers. Her bioreactive plating didn't trigger. Instead, skin flushed a faint violet. That had never happened before. Her systems didn't alarm. Her mind didn't resist. She didn't pull away. "I shouldn't be here," she whispered. "But you are." He was close now, not touching, not forcing. "Just there. I am not like you," she said. He smiled. "You don't have to be. Just be you." For the first time in her life, Kylari didn't feel like a weapon. She felt seen in the most dangerous part. She didn't want to leave. Kylari sat on the edge of her bunk, staring. At her open palm, it had touched him. Elias Drake, a Terran prisoner, her enemy. But he hadn't flinched. He hadn't recoiled in fear. He'd looked at her like she was something beautiful, something human. Her system log showed elevated heart rhythm, temperature spike. Irregular neuron firing, but no damage. It's no malfunction. Unless this was the malfunction. She should have reported it. Flushed her memory logs. Recalibrated. She didn't. Instead, she found herself in front of his cell again the next cycle, her footsteps slow and uncertain. He was sitting on the floor this time, a rough sketch on the wall behind him, crude sunset shades of orange and red drawn with rust and whatever pigments he could find. She stared at it. "You remembered?" he said softly. She didn't answer. "Did you come to finish me today?" he asked. His tone wasn't fearful, but not playful either. Quiet. "Curious, no?" she said after a long pause. "I came because I wanted to." That wasn't a statement she had ever made in her life. He looked at her carefully, like trying to read the words behind her expressionless face. "You're changing," he said. She sat. "I was not made to change." "Then you're doing a hell of a job defying expectations." She looked at the sketch again. "What is it about sunsets?" she asked. "They're endings that feel like beginnings," he said. "You watch the sky burn and know something better is waiting just past the dark." Kylari blinked. "That sounds irrational," he laughed. "Most feelings are." They sat in silence for a while. No questions, no interrogation, just silence. "Had a sister?" Elias said suddenly. "Before the war?" Kylari turned to him. "She was 12 when the Shirathi hit our colony. I was off-world. She didn't make it." His voice was steady, but his eyes flicked away. "After that, I joined Recon. Figured if I could just understand how you're kind. Thanks. Maybe we could stop it." Kylari's chest tightened in unfamiliar sensation. Not pain, not a wound. Guilt. "I have ended many lives," she said quietly. Elias nodded. "Yeah, I figured. But I also figured something else." She tilted her head. "You're not killing me. Even though you've had a dozen chances, that tells me maybe you're not who they told you to be." Her eyes locked on his. "And if I am lying, manipulating you." He leaned closer. "Then you're the most convincing manipulator I've ever met, because somehow you're making me want to believe." A pulse of light flared across the ceiling, a siren wind in the background. Kylari stood instantly. Emergency lockdown. Another ship just entered the perimeter. Elias looked up Terran. She shook her head. "Shirathi. Our fleet? So? What happens now?" "They will expect your execution before boarding," she said. "Standard protocol for high-level prisoners." Elias stood too. "Then I guess this is goodbye?" Kylari didn't answer. Her eyes darted to the security camera in the corner. It blinked. Red. Recording, without a word. She turned and left, but she didn't go to the command deck. She went to engineering. Inside, she accessed a back door to the ship's power grid. A restricted protocol meant only for deep space maintenance. She keyed in a security override she wasn't supposed to know. Then she cut the camera feed too. Cell block 9 for precisely 5 minutes. 5 minutes was all she had. She ran her boots. Pounded the steel floors. Down corridor after corridor, past confused maintenance drones and glowing red lights. She reached the cell door just as the countdown to docking began. Elias looked up. "They're here, aren't they?" Kylari didn't speak. She just grabbed his wrist, placed her palm over the cuffs, and activated a localized EMP burst. The restraints hissed and fell to the floor. He stared at her. "You're freeing me?" She shook her head. "No, I'm coming with you." His eyes widened. "You're what?" "I have stolen a single-use escape pod. Unregistered. There's a nearby Terran outpost within reach." You're still staring. "You're risking your entire life to save me?" She leaned closer. I am risking it, because something inside me is alive now. Something you woke up. I will not let it die here. His smile was slow, stunned and real. Well, damn, Silver, he whispered. Looks like you're human after all. She looked down at their hands, hers cold and smooth. His rough, warm, calloused, and somehow, they fit. Come, she said, her voice no longer cold. We don't have much time. They ran into the dark, alarms blaring, metal echoing behind them, two fugitives fleeing a war neither of them wanted to fight anymore. And somewhere deep inside her synthetic chest, Kalari felt something new. Not a program, not a directive. Hope asterisk. The escape pod launched just as the docking clamps of the Shirathi warship hissed open. Behind them, a dozen sleek fighter bays released combat drones into the void, scouring the area for unauthorized signals. But Kylari's pod ran cold, no heat signature, no energy pulse. No, she'd built it that way. A ghost in space. Inside the tiny craft, Elias sat across from her, strapped in, breathing hard. The pod shook violently as it coasted along a trajectory. She'd plotted by hand manual navigation, no tracking systems. Old school, you sure they won't find us? He asked, wiping sweat from his brow. No, she said calmly, eyes locked on the flickering nav screen. But they will look in all the wrong places. He studied her silver skin gleaming in the dim blue light, her posture stiff, unnatural, like she didn't quite know what to do now that the plan was in motion. You always this calm when you're committing treason? He asked with a smirk. She turned her head. Yes. He laughed, the sound rich and human and jarring in the silence. I don't get it, he said after a moment. You were built to kill people like me. How did I get under your skin? She didn't answer immediately. When I opened your cell, I expected rage, she said at last, or fear, or pleading. I gave you a wink. She nodded. It made no sense. It triggered an anomaly in my emotional dampening routines. It has not stopped since. So I broke you? No, she said quietly. You unlocked something. Pod trembled again, this time more violently. A proximity alert buzzed a debris field ahead. Kylari's fingers danced over the controls. Hold on, she said. I've got nothing else to hold on to, Elias muttered. Gripping his seat, the pod ducked and weaved through drifting shards of old wreckage, remnants of a centuries-old battle. Elias glimpsed broken hulls, skeletal frames, flags long faded and forgotten. Graveyard, he whispered.
Hi.
My grandfather used to tell stories about this place. Kylari glanced at him. Then it is fitting. Fitting how? Because this is where something dead begins to live again. He looked at her, stunned, and for a moment forgot the fear in his gut. They cleared the debris field. Pod coasted into the shadow of a small moon, one barely habitable, but with enough atmosphere for a landing. Kylari brought them down. Hard, retro thrusters screaming, the ground kicking up dust and ash as they settled. Silence followed. Kylari rose first, extending a hand. Elias blinked at it. You're offering help now? I calculated that emotional trust increases after shared danger, she said. He took her hand. You really know how to kill the mood, Silver. Her grip tightened slightly. You keep calling me that, Silver. Well, it beats Kylari, the human slayer. I am no longer a slayer. No, he said, stepping out into the cold alien wind. But you're something else now. They found shelter in a rocky outcrop, an old recon bunker, half-buried, abandoned decades ago. Had power, barely enough for warmth and light. That night, they sat by the heat core, sharing a thermal blanket. You ever wonder why we always end up fighting? Elias asked, sipping from a ration flask. Kylari sat with her knees tucked close, eyes reflecting the soft glow of the heater. Because fear is more efficient than understanding, he grunted. That's cold. It's true. You don't feel fear, do you? She paused. I didn't, but I do now. Why? She looked at him. Because if they find us, I don't know what they'll do to you. The admission hit harder than Elias expected. You care? Her eyes glinted. I didn't know I could. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The silence between them wasn't empty. It was heavy. full of questions uncade. Finally, he said, "They'll come for us, you know." "Yes." "What happens when they do?" Kalari turned toward him, her voice steady. "I fight for you. This time with you." Elias smiled faintly. "You sure about that?" "I chose you over the war, over everything I was built for. That choice doesn't change." He studied her face, flawless, beautiful, alien, and yet more real than anyone he'd ever known. Then, slowly, he leaned in, close enough to feel the warmth of her skin, the soft hum beneath it. "Silver," he whispered. "If you're a malfunction, then I never want the fix." Her lips were colder than human ones, but the kiss they shared was warm, deep, cautious, then hungry. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. And when they finally broke apart, breathing heavily, Kalari whispered, "I was made for war, but I think I was meant for this." Outside, under a dead sky full of stars, the galaxy spun unaware that something extraordinary had just begun on a forgotten moon. A weapon had fallen in love, and the universe would never be the same again. Asterisk, the days passed quietly on the forgotten moon. The bunker's thick walls shielded them from the frozen storms, and the stars above blinked cold and watchful. Kalari and Elias settled into a strange rhythm, one born of survival, curiosity, and something dangerously close to intimacy. Elias was healing. Slowly, the bruises from the cell were fading, the cuts on his hands crusted over and clean. But something deeper still hurt in him. Something older, not from the war, but from Earth, from before the uniform, Kalari noticed. She noticed everything now. "You don't sleep much," she said one night as they shared their now familiar post-trash in silence by the core heater. "I sleep enough," Elias muttered, staring into the soft blue flame. "Not like I'm missing dreams." "Haven't had good ones in years," she tilted her head. "Humans require REM cycles for emotional stability. Lack of them can cause irrational behavior." He smirked, a little tired. "That a diagnosis, Dr. Silver? An observation?" She replied evenly, but her tone carried a softness that hadn't been there before. A silence passed, longer than usual. Then Elias said, "I had a brother. He's back on Mars colony, younger, smarter, fast talker. He joined before me, wanted to prove something." Kylar listened, her expression unreadable. "His squad vanished near the Acheron Rift. We never found the bodies." Elias swallowed, jaw tightening. "Said it was a Shirathi ambush." "One of yours?" Her gaze didn't shift. She didn't flinch. "I was not deployed in that region." "I know," he said. "But sometimes it doesn't matter, does it? No, you didn't do." Kylari leaned forward, slowly. "If you wish to hate me for it, I would not stop you." He looked at her. Really looked, should he whispered. "But I don't. I can't." And he didn't know why. Maybe it was the way she always watched the sky like it whispered secrets. Maybe it was how she never lied Evan when the truth was brutal. Maybe it was because for all her metal and bio-wiring, she was more human in her silence than most men Elias had fought beside. "I'm not proud of what I was," she said after a while. "I executed over 100 combatants. 27 were unarmed. 6 of them surrendered." "That's not a confession," Elias said. "That's a burden." Kylari's voice dropped to a whisper. "Feel them now. See their faces. My creators made me efficient, but they made one mistake." "What?" "They gave me eyes." Outside, the wind howled across the cratered wasteland, and the stars blinked like silent witnesses. Later, when the storm broke and the moonlight filtered in through the high cracks of the rock ceiling, Elias stirred awake. Kylari was standing near the entrance, her back to him, facing the dark. He rose, quietly approaching. "You always watching for someone?" he asked, voice soft. "Yes," she said without turning, "but not who you think." She pointed. There on the far edge of the horizon was the blinking red eye of a scout drone. Silent, watching, waiting. "How long?" he asked. "Since yesterday, and you didn't wake me?" He needed rest. He touched her arm. It was cold. Not from fear, but from tension. "Readiness? Are we running again?" Elias asked. "No," Kylari said. "We can't run forever. Then we fight." No, she looked at him now. We talk. Ilias raised an eyebrow. You're betting on diplomacy after everything? Not diplomacy, she said. I'm betting on you. Before he could respond, she activated her suit's deep encoded beacon. A pulse signal, a call not of surrender, but of challenge. A message not to her commanders, but to her sister unit. Commander Varix, another engineered warrior, still loyal, still perfect. She'll come, Kailari said, and she'll try to kill us both. We're inviting her. She'll must see what I've become. She'll must understand. And if she doesn't? Kalari's hand drifted to the sidearm Elias had modified for her. Then we finish what the war started. For the first time in a long while, Elias didn't feel tired. He felt ready. Because maybe she was right. Maybe the only way to end a war wasn't with more death, but with proof that even weapons could choose something different. Even a soldier engineered for extinction could learn to love. And in that moment, standing beside her as the red eye of judgment blinked from the stars above, Elias understood. She hadn't just saved him from a cell, she was saving herself from everything she'd been. And together, they'd fight for a future neither of them was supposed to have. The drone's blinking red light disappeared as fast as it came, vanishing into the black sky like a dropped ember. Elias and Kailari didn't speak after that, not because there was nothing to say, but because what was coming next didn't need words. It needed resolve. By the time the next sunrise bled across the horizon of the dead moon, their bunker had become a battleground waiting to happen. Elias had spent the early hours rigging the exterior with proximity alarms and crude shock pulses made from salvaged power cores. It wouldn't stop Kailari's sister, but it might slow her. Kailari stood at the center of the bunker, her bioplating flickering with low-frequency energy. She had activated combat mode, but not in full. Not yet. She'd come alone, Elias asked, setting down the last of the charge coils. Yes, Kailar replied. Vorex doesn't believe in backup. Let me guess. Pride? Perfection? She turned toward him. She still thinks like the creators. She sees deviation as corruption. I am a flaw in her equation now. Then let's give her a hell of a math problem, Elias smiled. But Kailari didn't return it. Instead, she stepped closer, placing her hand on his chest plate. Elias, if I fail, stop, interrupted, pressing his hand over hers. If we fail together. You're not some machine with a target anymore, you're mine, and I'm yours. Her silver eyes shimmered, the smallest pulse of biolight passing across her irises like a heartbeat. Then a sound cut the moment short. Not the shriek of storm winds, not the low hum of a drone, but the thrum of a dropship engine's leak, silent and deliberate. She had arrived. Commander Vurex dropped onto the moon's surface like a falling blade. Her armor was pitch black, etched with crimson runes, an elite mark of absolute authority. She landed without a sound, the dust around her dispersing as if afraid to cling. To her presence, target acquired, Vurex said. Her voice sharp and flat like cracked ice. She didn't speak to Elias, only to Kailari. Report Unit 7X14. Are you corrupted? I am changed, Kailari said calmly, stepping forward. And I have chosen my own directive. Defection confirmed, Vurex replied, activating twin energy blades from her forearms. Genetic reconditioning not recommended. Termination approved. She launched forward, faster than any human I could track. Kalari met her mid-air, the two silver-skinned titans colliding with a thunderous crack that shook the bunker walls. Sparks flew. Metal sang against metal. Every strike was not just a blow, it was a conversation. You betrayed us. I freed myself. You are broken. I am whole. Elias watched for only a second before diving to the console, fingers flying over the control pad. He had one advantage. Vurex didn't even acknowledge him, so that made her predictable. Mistake #1. As the two fought, Elias activated the first of his modified power loops. A shockwave burst through the room, shorting the light grid and dropping the room into a stuttering flicker of white and shadow. Vurex hesitated for the briefest moment, enough for Kailari to slam her shoulder into her sister's chest and drive her back into the wall. But Vurex recovered instantly, twisting mid-air and landing with eerie grace. Why defend the flesh being? she asked, circling Kailari now. His biology's inefficient. He is soft, crude. He will age and die. So will I, Kailari replied. But he gave me purpose. Varix lunged again, this time aiming directly for Elias. A tactical strike, not because she saw him as a threat, but because she saw him as leverage. Another mistake. Kailari intercepted the blow with a roar Elias had never heard from her before. It wasn't machine. It wasn't protocol. It was personal. The fight turned feral. There was no grace now, just raw strikes, desperation, pain. Kailari took a blade across her side, plasma sizzling into her skin, but she didn't stop, refused. 2, because in Varix's eyes, Elias was just a weakness, and in Kailari's, he was everything. With a final spin, Kalar used the oldest trick in the Terran infantry manual. Elias had once taught her in the dark hours between meals and repair. Cycles. Use the enemy's strength against them. She ducked under Varix's. Swing grabbed her sister's own momentum and drove her backward into the core, wall slamming her into a high voltage. Capacitor with a snap of blue lightning. The power surged. Varix screamed. When the light faded, she lay crumpled, sparks leaking from her armor, still breathing, still alive, but defeated. Kailari stood over her, panting not from exertion, but from emotional overload. She stared down at her sister, whose expression, usually so cold now, flickered with something new. Doubt. I won't kill you, Kailari said, because he taught me something you'll never understand. What? Varix rasped. Mercy. She turned and walked to Elias, who was bleeding from his forehead but smiling through it. You okay? She asked, kneeling. He grinned, teeth bloodied. You threw her like a damn rocket. I'm great. Kailari helped him up, her arms gentle now. Her armor flickered, dimming into standby mode. As they limped toward the exit, Elias looked back once. Varix was still lying there, watching. Silent. Maybe she'd report them, maybe not. But Elias didn't care anymore. Because for the first time in his life, he wasn't just surviving. He was chosen by something built for war, but reborn for something else entirely. And Kailari, the perfect weapon, chosen him. Asterisk, the battered shuttle cleared the moon's gravity with a jolt, the blast doors sealing. Behind Kailari and Elias, as the worst of the firefight stayed behind. Inside, only the low hum of emergency power filled the cramped cabin. Kailari slumped against the wall, her armor cracked but her chest rising and falling steadily. Elias sat across, cleaning blood from his brow, the faint glow of recon cameras illuminating his bruised human features. She looked at him, silver, eyes softening. You're safe. I'm here because of you, he answered, voice rough but raw with gratitude. You didn't just save me, you saved yourself. They drifted in silence for a moment before Kailari spoke again. Have nowhere to go. Shirathi warships are searching this sector. The Terran blockade is watching. Neither side trusts us. He nodded slowly. Then we make our own space. Build our own trust. She studied him, her synthetic systems humming with a new kind of energy. Something emotional, unpredictable. You speak of cooperation. I speak of us, her head tilted. Explain cooperation. He looked around the shuttle interior lit by emergency strobes. 2 fugitives. 1 old supply ship, not built to specs. And relationship metrics that are off the charts. She frowned. Relationship metrics. According to your sister's logs, you and I. Compatibility rate is so high it defies Shirathi norms. And if we factor in terrestrial psychology, we're off the charts emotionally, physically, even biologically. She blinked. Biologically? Yes, he said with a grin despite the bruise on his cheek. The lab at the outpost deployed me for a check. My biometrics. Your proximity, they went through the roof. Neurochemical spikes, neural synapses syncing up. We're literally wired differently. Her chest armor vibrated slightly. This is impossible. Then let's prove it. He pulled up a holopad. On the screen were graphs, blue lines jumping as they plotted their biometrics through the escape. The fight, the emotional spikes. Her eyes widened. It was data she couldn't argue with. We're not just fugitives, he said. We're We're biological proof something new can exist in this galaxy? She let that settle in. And then she reached out again closer this time, her fingers brushing his jaw. She felt warmth, elasticity, softness. Not like metal, not like Shirathi. Human you are. Fragile, she whispered, but surviving. And you, he replied, are built for war but choosing life. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. The shuttle shuddered as thrusters engaged. They were leaving the moon, leaving behind war, leaving behind old identities. Elias placed his hand over Kailari's open palm. Ready? He asked. She pressed her palm flat. The hum of their joined hands lit the shuttle's sensors. Always, they entered hyperspace together, systems syncing. Outside, the universe stretched into ribbons of light. Inside, something entirely new was forming. Weeks passed in stark contrast to the dangers that chased them. They slipped through dark markets and hidden bases, gathering allies. Elias contacted outpost engineers who owed him favors. Kailari found herself learning how to live without orders, shopping for supplies at risky pirate towns, repairing broken systems, trading favors with mercs who needed a powerful Shirathi commander with a conscience. And through it all, the bond between them deepened in ways neither understood completely. One night aboard their patched-together ship, Elias pulled out 2 small boxes scanned relics from Earth and Shiratha cultures. I have something for the world, he said softly, and something for us. Kailari looked, curiosity shining. In her eyes, what are they? He handed her the first, a human encrypted ring. On the outside etched words, bond stronger than war. She turned it over, delicate and perfect, ancient, comforting. The second he took from her, a Shirathi pendant, a twin-blade crest, symbol of her unit, but embedded with original biocodes that identified her as commander of Unit 7X14. He watched her as she processed them. You lost your designation, but you're still you. You deserve a Play 7 if it's a new one. She traced the crest with her fingertip. There was a hesitance in her movements, deliberate, thoughtful. She met his gaze. A bond without blood, she whispered. Human and Shirathi, united. They pressed rings dependent together, symbols from 2 worlds forming something third. They kissed, slow and deep, sealing more than promised destiny. The galaxy outside remained violent, uncertain. But inside, their ship, rebuilt from ash, they had constructed something stronger than war, something that betrayed both their origins and transcended them. Together, they navigated the unknown, fueled by a bond that defied their purpose and forged their future. And on the bridge, a new crew gathered, a human medic, Shirathi engineer, who had also questioned orders, a few freelancers who believed love could change worlds. They became a mission, to show a galaxy torn by war that a new way was possible. It was risky. They knew the fleets would hunt them. They had each other. Sometimes that makes all the difference. Because when a weapon chooses the heart, and a man answers with trust, the universe has no choice but to listen. And in their flight through dark space, the future was theirs to rewrite. Together. Asterisk, the stars outside blinked like ancient eyes, watching as the Nyx runner, their ship, emerged from hyperspace into the void crescent, a neutral sector, carved by an old treaty and forgotten by the warring empires. Elias stood at the helm, one hand gripping the interface, the other resting comfortably around Kailari's waist. Her armor had softened literally. Since leaving the Shirathi, she'd modified it. The hard ridges of combat replaced by flexible plates, her biometal now shifting fluidly with emotion. Her silver skin glowed faintly in the dim light. They weren't fugitives anymore. We're legends in the making. Final coordinates locked, Elias said, squinting at the screen. This is it, the Coalition Summit. All 12 species. And we're late. Kailari didn't flinch. Time is relative. Impact is absolute. He smirked. That's very you. Correction, she replied. That's very us. Below them, the floating city of Vera Prime shimmered with artificial sunlight, orbiting the remains of a dead planet once glassed by the Shirathi during the border wars. Now it was a hub for uneasy diplomacy. The summit was historic, the first time the Terrans and the Shirathi would stand in the same chamber since the ceasefire. Assuming Kailari wasn't shot on sight, Ilias turned to her, brushing his fingers against her neck just above her collarbone. "You don't have to go down there. I'll speak for us." Her gaze burned into him. "They must see what I am and what I've become." He nodded, pride flickering behind his war-hardened eyes. The landing was quiet. No formal welcome. No guards. Just a single Terran diplomat and a Shirathi emissary waiting like statues. The Terran flinched when Kailari stepped out. The emissary hissed. "I thought you were dead," the Shirathi said coldly. "You were meant to be." Kailari met his eyes. "I was. And then I met Elias." Oh, the name hung in the air like a charge. "I am no longer your weapon," she said. "I am his partner, his bondmate. And something new, something neither of us were made to be." "Then why come here?" the diplomat asked, skeptical. "What could you possibly hope to gain?" "A future," Elias answered, stepping beside her, "for us, and for everyone else who's tired of watching the galaxy burn from old hate." The room fell silent. Then the doors opened. The grand chamber of Vera Prime was vast, shaped like a spiral nebula with platforms for each race. Holographic light danced across polished obsidian. Kailari's boots echoed on the smooth floor, drawing every eye in the chamber, and then the whispers started. The traitor, the rogue weapon, the human, and the machine. But Elias didn't flinch. He stood tall. Kailari stepped forward and spoke. "I am Kailari, once commander of Shirathi Battle Group 7X14. I was born to destroy. Built to kill. Forged in genetic fire. I was designed without fear, without empathy, without choice, until I met a prisoner. A human who asked me why." She looked over her shoulder at Elias. "He didn't resist me. He saw me. Was ordered to kill him?" He winked. Laughter bubbled through the chamber, soft, surprised, and that simple act broke everything I was meant to be. It introduced doubt, then curiosity, and something I never knew I had. Hope, she held up her wrist, revealing a small mark glowing blue circuitry intertwined with a Terran sigil. A hybrid tattoo proof of her transformation. "I am no longer loyal to one flag. I am loyal to us. Not just Elias and me, but to the idea that two enemies can create something stronger than war." Murmurs rippled again, some skeptical, some thoughtful. Elias stepped forward, his voice calm but clear. "We don't come asking for forgiveness. We're not symbols. We're a warning and a possibility. A warning of what happens when we reduce each other to tools and enemies, and a possibility that something better exists." He reached out. Kailari took his hand. The bond between them, visible now to anyone with sensor tech, lit up in a swirl of bioluminescent energy. It pulsed between them, a living testament to love, rebellion, evolution. A diplomat from the Relathi, a species known for their logic, leaned forward. "You claim your bond is biological, that it has stabilized?" Kailari nodded. "Our fusion is permanent, emotional, neural, even reproductive." Gasps. "Yes," Elias said, with a grin. "We're expecting." Silence fell like gravity. Then chaos. Whispers, shouts, scans. A Terran aide ran a biological sweep, confirmed. Kailari was carrying hybrid offspring, something the galaxy had never seen. A child created not by science or war, but by love. The chair of the summit rose at last. An ancient Polari with crystal skin and 6 eyes that gleamed with starlight. "Then we are not witnessing history," they said. "We are witnessing the birth of a new epoch." They stepped down from their platform and bowed not to Elias, not to Kailari, but to the space between them. The chamber echoed with stunned silence. Then slowly, hands began to clap. Tentacles waved. Mandibles clicked. Even the Shirathi emissary, after a long hesitation, dipped his head. Because sometimes peace isn't negotiated through treaties or firepower. Sometimes it walks into the room hand in hand, carrying a future none of them dared to imagine. Later, that night, as the stars turned slowly above Vera Prime, Lias and Kailari lay on their ship, no longer fugitives, no longer enemies, just partners. Lovers, parents, -2-B. Double quotes, still think I should have executed you? She teased, head resting on his shoulder. He laughed. You missed your chance. Now you're stuck with me forever. Her hand drifted to her stomach, where something small and miraculous stirred. I wouldn't have it any other way. And above them, the stars burned a little brighter. The end.